Welcome to the special series of Real-ationship Talk, the podcast created to celebrate Black men and men of Black heritage, recognizing who they are, their achievements, the impact they're making, and the legacy they're leaving. In today's episode, I'm in conversation with Lee Hazzard, a serial entrepreneur and community builder, dedicated to helping people unlock their potential and live more aligned lives. He is the founder of Renova, a platform focused on combining AI, coaching, and community to help individuals move from overwhelm to consistent execution and personal transformation. With over 20 years of experience across entrepreneurship, coaching, and business strategy, Lee has founded and scaled multiple ventures while mentoring founders, executives, and emerging leaders. His work blends psychology, identity transformation, and performance science to help people turn clarity into meaningful action. You can find out more about Lee's elevating work in the show notes. During this conversation, Lee shares the challenges that can arise when you are embodying a new level of success. He also reveals how to navigate your plans, goals, and sense of direction whilst allowing space for the natural ebb and flow of life. He explains the importance of leaning into our emotions, and particularly for men, as a way to become more aligned, express who you truly are, and release the pressure of conforming to expectations that can disconnect you from your authentic self. Alongside that, Lee reveals the one question every man, and especially Black men and men of Black heritage, ought to consider asking themselves regularly. And so much more. Whilst this series celebrates the voices and experiences of Black men and men of Black heritage, the themes explored in this conversation are relevant for anyone interested in identity, growth, and meaningful relationships. You are about to get the whole RLT, aka Real-ationship Talk, so you're going to want to watch the entire episode. I hope you'll find this conversation as insightful and nourishing as I did. And remember to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell. I'm Teresha Young, your host and international wellness and relationship coach. Enjoy, take notes, and get ready to apply all key messages you take away today. Lee, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Teresha, I am good. So good to be here and reconnect with you. Really looking forward to this, actually.
Me too, because me and Lee go back years.
Way
back. Making that sound prehistoric. Well, we go way back. So I really wanted to have the opportunity to invite you on the show to have a wonderful conversation, because I know it's going to be absolutely phenomenal for this very special series that I am doing here. So thank you so much for the opportunity to have a chat.
Privilege.
So,
absolute privilege.
I would love, Lee, before we talk about your journey, for you to share with us, who is Lee Hazzard?
Oh, wow.
In your own words.
In my own words. That's really interesting. So I think Lee Hazzard, circa 2024 and before, would have had a definitive answer. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm in tech, I'm a father. And I think over the last few years, as I've gotten older and been on a different path of growth, like a lot of inner growth, I've come to a space where there isn't a single identity of who Lee is. And so there is a phrase that I've had on my Facebook for a long time now, and I've just simply said in my profile, a spiritual being having a human experience. Yeah, for me, I'm not going to be the same person I was yesterday. I'm going to have maybe a slightly changed perception of life. And so the question I ask myself these days is, rather than who do I want to be, it's how do I want to show up to life today? And that's not for me to have this kind of woo-woo kind of tagline. Yes. I think it's just reflected kind of my own journey and what sits comfortably with me, rather than kind of having this constrained view of who I am.
Yes, I love that, Lee. And that's a really powerful question because it keeps you present. How
Yes,
do I want to show up today? You're
right.
not talking about tomorrow. You are present and grounded in that moment. So again, the pressure, I suppose,
Mhm.
for me, even you saying that makes it feel less pressurized because I'm like, I'm only
Right,
thinking about today.
right. 100%. And it's almost like, and look, there's nothing wrong, with having some form of identity. We need to circumnavigate life, and
Mm,
you know, there's certain level of interfacing we need. I think what I've done too much in the past is lean in and fixated on this identity and
yes.
kind of missed out so much of
Mm,
different opportunities as life changes, connections, networks. And I think you're right, T, like just being present. And I think
mm,
sometimes identity can get in the way.
yes. So tell us a bit about that because you spoke about 2024 version of Lee. Now you've been on a journey. So tell us, I mean, you don't have to just limit it to the 2 years or so, but
Sure.
what has your personal and professional journey of growth looked like so far?
Oof, wow. It has been a culmination of intentional, conscious, unintentional, unconscious experiences and events that have just come together to
Mm,
put me on a path. So I'd say since 2022, I think I've experienced the biggest transformation. So if we rewind maybe to then, so
mm,
I think that was 2 years into us connecting and working on Unify. And at that time, things were fantastic. I had this amazing company. We raised money. We were a team of 20. And it was something that I truly enjoyed. And to hear your staff say that this is the best role they've ever had, it was just a dream. Like I was in this bubble, money was flowing. I was in a really, really good place. And at the time, I was engaging in mindset coaching. So I worked with this coach who took me from, like, at the time we started work, like I literally had £40 in my account because I just, like, my last business had completely crashed.
yeah.
And she said one phrase on that discovery call. She said, money isn't the issue. I said, I think it is. And she said, no, it's not. And I said, my bank balance will disagree.
Mhm.
And she said, it's not. It's the mindset and it's your fixation on your current reality. Every great visionary thinks, lives from the future. And she just said, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to visualize paying for my coaching service. And that's when I just rolled my eyes. I was like, yeah, I knew this was going
Yeah.
to be nonsense. Anyway, forgot the call. Maybe second day in, I was like, look, I ain't got nothing to lose right now,
Yeah.
apart from £40.
A just eat takeaway.
You know what I mean? Last supper.
Last time. Don't worry about food. I'm dreaming.
Yeah. So I did her practice. And the next day I get an email from a company that had fired me like 4 years prior. And they said, hi, Lee, just to let you know, we're being acquired by one of our suppliers and you can now exercise your shares. I didn't know I had shares I didn't even know I had shares in the company. And they paid out in 2 days' time on the day she asked me to. And I think that was when the light bulb went on about
Yes.
mindset. And so I just harnessed that. I went all in. Unifying followed shortly after. I was earning more money than I've ever earned, and everything was just flowing.
Yeah.
And I think after 4 months, there was almost this thing inside of me, a very subconscious whisper, you don't deserve this. And I kind of hit that. They call it the upper limit.
Mm,
Guy Claxton in his book, The Big Leap, says every person hits that upper limit, and Bob Proctor calls it the terror barrier.
mm,
And I hit it, and I didn't have the tools or the experience to deal with that. How do you embody your new level of success. And so I unconsciously and strategically started self-sabotaging. So I found very clever ways of getting rid of the money in the guise of business expenses. I was in a really great relationship and just found ways of sabot, and everything went within a 3-month window. Like company, money, relationship, just gone.
Wow.
And I think what that did is it showed me that all my identity was tied in
Mm.
things. And that's what set me on my journey. And I knew at that point, I really need to figure out like who he is beyond the external, like who
Yes.
he is beyond needing to prove himself. And then that took me on a journey of therapy, support groups,
Yeah.
men's groups, plant medicine, ayahuasca, and I
Mm.
went into so many different countries, and so it'd be really hard to pinpoint one thing that really helped. I just think it was the culmination of life, the support groups I had, the friends,
Yes.
the the time out from work. So I was so burnt out. I was off work for about a year and a half. And I
Mm.
remember when I had to step down from the company and I was telling a friend, about burnt out. And I said, I'm just going to take a couple of weeks off. And he said, it's going to be more like 2 years. And I was like, nonsense.
I got bills to pay.
It turned out to be about 3 years. And so I think there's no equation to building who you are or rebuilding who you are. You have to you do need to take actions, but you also have to factor in half that equation. It's just going to be a lived experience. It's just going to be life doing its thing and you being able to circumnavigate that.
Yeah. What a powerful share there, Lee. And when you was talking, I was thinking it was like a breakdown that led you to a breakthrough.
Yeah.
That's what was coming through to me. And your journey is just so incredibly inspiring because, as you said, the spiritual being living a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's the phrase that you use. And the fact that it took for that upper limit to come in, to sabotage you, and then for everything to then spiral in a
Yeah.
certain direction. Now, you spoke about embodying that new level of success.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, many people don't realize that there could actually be a subconscious fear of success too. What does success even look like for people? So I'm so curious to ask you then, Lee, what is your personal definition of success
Oh,
at this
wow.
stage of your
I,
life?
and that I think that is such a good sort of emphasis at this stage.
Yeah.
Um, Success has meant so many things over the years for me, and coming across there was a book written by David Dida called Intimate Communion. Brilliant book. He's such an incredible author around the feminine and masculine. And he said, in a man's life, he has 3 stages. The first stage is acquisition. So this is you building your status, acquiring wealth and success,
Mhm.
really finding meaning in the external. And then he said, once a man maxes that out and realizes actually this is not as fulfilling as I would have liked it to be, and it's quite empty, he then goes within himself and then he does the personal development. So
Okay.
finds himself, his inner peace, his emotional stability. And that is definitely a step up from the acquisition stage.
Okay.
However, he finds that even that is not as fulfilling as he thought it was. And then the third stage is surrender to life. And that is when you show up almost co-creating every day with life.
Okay.
And if we put that into a more practical experience, it's having a plan, but also factoring the unfolding of whatever life brings and accepting it and being able to dance with it, navigate it, shape it
Yes.
into your own, rather than you having this set plan. And it goes back to the whole identity thing, is
Yes.
rather than having this fixed identity, like
Yes.
interface with the changes of life and accept them and embrace them because they're bringing wisdom.
Mm.
And so for me, I feel like I'm just getting into that surrender stage of life. And for me, that is the ultimate success when you can circumnavigate the ebbs and flows of
Mm.
life.
Mm.
Material success is great. Yeah, you know, we're having the human experience. We
Yeah.
want the nice things in life. But my success at this stage looks like, can I hold space for the chaos of life as well as my own sphere of influence? Can I
Mm.
navigate them well? Can I enjoy time with my daughter, be present, enjoy building a business
Yes.
while these parts of my life are on fire, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
And and seeing both in equal measure, not having a proclivity like this is good and this is bad,
Yeah.
being able to hold them both as experiences. And that for me is what success really looks like right now. Now, that's not to say I might not have this cycle and go,
Yes.
actually, I want to go back to my acquisition stage.
Yes.
Now I want to make this and I want to live here and I want to build
Mm.
this. And then you do that. And it's being able to be okay with the cycle, you know.
Yes.
So success for me is holding every experience that unfolds in life in equal measure and being able
Mm.
to live with it and,
Yes.
and do what you can in your sphere of influence.
What a powerful share. I love that. And thank you for sharing those three stages too. Because
Mm,
when you use the word surrender, and for many people, that word can feel very difficult to embrace and embody
yeah,
because it almost feels like you are letting go of control.
right.
Surrender, that makes me vulnerable. It
Yeah,
makes me weak,
yeah,
whatever that might look like. But the way how you phrase it in terms of co-creation,
right.
I thought that was such a lovely reframe of that word because
Yeah,
you're just saying, I don't have to do it all.
right,
I can co-create.
right.
And there's a kind of a beautiful combination that
Mm,
comes into place
yeah,
with that.
absolutely. You know, I have struggled with the word surrender for like 16 years
Mm,
because it meant those very things you were talking about. It meant you're resigning from life,
yes.
you're giving up control,
Yep.
even though you are. you're,
Yeah.
you're being weak, you're not taking responsibility. And again, it goes back to having some lived experiences to really appreciate what real surrender is. And it's all those things that you mentioned.
It is. Now, you spoke about those three stages, and
Mm.
again, how the author leans into feminine and masculine energy there.
Yeah,
And I think there needs to be a little bit more of an exploration around the feminine and masculine energy when it comes to being in a surrender position,
yeah,
because it's not about emasculating anybody, in that role. So, what's your view of leaning into energies in that view?
yeah. Very, very good point. So I always believe that um, as a man, you need to be masculine. Like
Mhm.
you need to take charge, lead, charge forward, um, stay true to your direction,
Yes.
be grounded, rah, just real kind of alpha male stuff. And I think during that real humbling stage, I realized how out of touch I am with my emotions. And because I'm pretty open generally,
Yeah.
I just always assumed, emotionally I'm okay. But I had suppressed so much of that emotional side of me, the
Mm.
feminine,
Yes.
because I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want the real me to be seen, the one that is uncomfortable being
Mm.
seen. So I'm happy to divulge the parts of me that
Yes.
are comfortable, but the parts that make me appear vulnerable, I
Mm.
wasn't happy. And so a lot of that got suppressed.
Yeah.
And so really dive in deep into this balance of masculine and feminine, I realized actually everybody needs their masculine and feminine. And obviously we are inclined to one side. It doesn't mean as a man
Mm.
you need to be more masculine. There are definitely incredibly happy and successful men that are more feminine. That is their natural grounded energy. But it's figuring out what is the balance for you. And so me coming into my feminine side was really, really transformed when I started having friendships with healthy feminine women, and then being able to kind of model what real feminine, healthy feminine looks like. So then I could start to take that and then see men who did it. And so that's been a really interesting process. And one thing that, I do like about life is it's that when the student is ready, the master appears, and the right people come to help you rebuild that balance for you. And so now I'm a lot more in touch with the feminine side. I allow my emotions to come up, even when they're difficult. Like I had a full-on crash out just before this this podcast, just because there's so many moving parts going on right now. And before I would have just been like, no, go do some push-ups outside, but it's like, no, feel the feels, because in that is some secret ingredients that is going to teach you how to be emotionally resilient, how to stabilize yourself, how to get further insights. And there's something I find that pain opens doors that comfort and peace never could. And without a man really being able to experience the full range of his emotions through the feminine, it's going to be a very difficult uphill struggle in life.
And thank you for being very vulnerable and expressing that on the show, and even what happened before our conversation that took place today. And I find it really encouraging that you have used the word emotion and that you have been leaning into your emotions, and that has helped you along your journey. Because for many Black men and men of Black heritage as well, there can be a certain stigma around leaning into emotions, and no cry,
foolishness.
It's not the foolishness. Yes, that's not the foolishness. Exactly. And there can be a lot of pressure not to express. So, and also I'm just thinking about, you mentioned before how you had a period of like burnout, and you were just feeling like, how important would you say, and also use the word direction in what you're saying here in our conversation, how important would you say is having a sense of direction, having a sense of I guess emotional wellness for navigating the mental health and well-being journey?
Yeah, really, really good question. And before, again, circa 2022, Lee would have been like, these are the steps towards, emotional resilience. And it's not. We all know life is really messy. It's really messy. And I think even though I don't have a definitive answer for that, where I'm at so far is that it's really important that you do have some direction, you have some first steps, and life will always give you first steps. I don't care who you are, where you're at in your journey, there's always some steps in front of you that need to be taken.
Yes.
And I've, since, starting coaching a lot of men, and even informally coaching them over the years, they're always presented with some initial steps that they know they need to take. So trust that. Where we, I think, can trip up on the emotional wellness journey is having attachment to an outcome. And that probably has been my biggest hurdle. Is I've always been, okay, if I do this piece of work, I'm going to get that. And I do that in business, and I brought that into my own personal development journey. So if I do this forecast, my emotional well-being should be at X%, and we all know life will just have a giggle when you make those plans. And so it's that ability to set a direction, but be open to the changes that life can help you course correct, because life is for you. As much as I was cussing it out before this call, it's for you. And it's trying, again, it comes back to this holding space for your own direction, as well as what life is trying to show you, even though it brings a lot of discomfort and sometimes pain.
Yeah. So that just circles back to what you said before in terms of having a plan. You can have a
Yeah,
plan, but then also the acceptance of life, or just and factoring in the acceptance of life and what
yeah,
that can bring, and
100%.
the uncertainties that come. I know we are very adaptable people,
Yeah,
and we is building that into it to say, look, we might have a preferred outcome. But yeah, of course, many people have a preferred outcome,
this is
but
it.
in between.
And this is it, Teresha. I feel like there's not enough emphasis on when life does punch you in the face, and
Mm,
having tools when things don't go, because it's, particularly in the personal development world, it's not sellable, right? You
mm.
can't say, hey, here's my 5-step plan, but between that your life is going to blow up.
And I can't help you with that.
And I can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
However, I do think we can help people um, manage their expectations when they're on
Mm,
the journey of when things go chaotic. We can help them have the tools to
yeah.
navigate. And I've been really fortunate of being blessed with some really great coaches, therapists, friends that have
Yes.
given me input and tools when life does like to
Mm,
go off the hinges a little bit,
yes.
and it's having the guardrails
Mm,
when chaos ensues in your life.
yes. And I love that you have those tools and that you have those support
Mm.
networks in place. And I know something for me, when life does punch you in the face and things are going a little bit wobbly, for me, it's having a daily method of operation. Like,
Yes.
my DMO is my thing. Of course, the DMO changes a little bit, but as long as I've got how I start my day, I wake up with prayer, contemplation, affirmations, I don't look at my phone, any of that, then I move into certain sections and segments of my day. I'm
Yeah.
curious, do you have a DMO,
I
daily method of operation?
do, I do, I do, yeah. And I totally agree with you as well on that. I think it's so important because the more you lean into that DMO, what does DMO stand for? I just said it.
Daily, and I did this DMO here.
Yeah, don't we think,
what,
yeah,
what did
what
I
is
just make up there? Your daily. I'm not going to claim it. I'm not going to claim
yeah,
it.
yeah,
It is
go
something
for it.
out there, but it's your daily method of operation.
Brilliant. Love that. So yeah, your DMO is the thing that allows you to manage your life, that manages whatever comes in, and
Yeah.
the more consistent and grounded it is. And I find that the more I lean into that and I'm consistent, the more I can manage
Mm,
whatever comes my way. The minute I've missed it, whew, we know.
yes.
Mine is meditation. So I meditate in my bed. I don't put my feet on the ground until I've had my meditation. And what the meditation does for me, it's not just about settling the mind, it's being able to make peace with where life is at as well. Because I went through years of I'm meditating to kind of disconnect from the
Yes.
discomfort of life. And it does help to
Mm-hmm.
a certain degree, absolutely. But it allows me to be okay with how life is. And I think that's the main purpose of meditation, is to become aware rather
Yes.
than to have peace.
Yes.
But you get peace as a result of becoming aware and being okay with
Of
how things are.
course.
So that's my thing. So I have my meditation, my visualization. I have a vision script of my life in terms of how I see it, how I'm feeling, the type of person I am, and that's been a staple diet for a long time. And it's so funny. I went to my vision board the other day, and I was just so blown away by how some of the visions have become a reality, and I completely forgot the home I'm in, like literally the railings around the garden with the river.
Oh,
It's on my vision board. It, like, just detail like that. And so my DMO is really important to me. And then gratitude as well.
yes.
That's so important. And there's so much science behind gratitude, as we
Yes.
know. And I find what the gratitude part does for me is, particularly if I'm feeling quite heavy or there's a focus on things that are not going, it
Mm,
just brings me back and reminds me, hey, not all of life is like that. In fact, it's a small percentage of life that is taking up your time with worry. Most of it's quite good, and that's what gratitude. It just kind of brings me back to reality that life is actually okay.
Yeah.
It's not as
Yeah.
frightening as your mind is trying to make it.
Mm. I love that. Thank you for that. And I absolutely agree with the gratitude side of it. So for me, I have one of my DMOs, particularly when it comes to bedtime, is to state at least 10 things I'm grateful for that day. And
Lovely.
that day, and it's really important because I
Yeah.
can say, you can obviously, I'm grateful for life, I'm grateful for my family, grateful for my daughter, and I'm great. You can go there, and I am. But when you focus and narrow it on the day as well, it really allows you to be very present, you know,
Yeah.
in
It,
that, no matter what happens. Yes, my washing machine got bust up, but no, other than that, it's fine. I'm grateful because the repairman's coming out. So
yeah.
it's all of those kind of things that you can find a counteraction to whatever you are experiencing. It's such a high vibration to be in.
Mm, yeah.
And I really love that share, what you said there, to have that peace that can come from the meditation as well. It's such a
Absolutely.
grounding, mindful
Absolutely. Yeah.
practice to have. You've
Sorry,
spoken.
before we go
Yes.
on, and that reminds me, like that is something I do with my daughter as well. So before we go bed, we share our gratitudes, and that and we do it without fail. And again, that is such a great reinforcer. The day has actually been okay. It's been all right. But I'd actually be really interested to know, like, what are your DMOs?
So my DMOs, so I kind of alluded to what I do in the morning. So in the morning, I wake up, first thing, it's prayer, contemplation, it's
Right.
my affirmations. I
Mm,
go still and within as well. So a little bit of meditation as well, see what comes up for me. I
right.
do a little bit of tapping as well in the morning, just
Yes.
to tap things out. And I can
I
do that
had
whilst
one session of those, and it was so powerful.
it's so, so powerful. It's such a beautiful way to tap on those certain points within your body and
Mm,
to release whatever could be stored up. So
amazing.
I do all of that before I even look up my phone as
Yeah,
well. So it's
I
really
need. That's
important
what
to
I
be
need.
grounded. Yeah. I mean, the phone has the alarm. I turn it off, of course.
Yeah.
But other than that, then it's straight into my DMO.
Awesome.
Then before I start getting Jada as my daughter and start getting her ready for school, she's 9 years old. And I am brushing my teeth and getting myself ready in the morning, in the shower. I listen to personal development, whatever that can be. I'm a firm believer of habit stacking because
Yes.
there's no reason why you can't do a habit on top of another habit. I
Yeah.
can get my personal development in whilst I'm brushing my teeth.
That's brilliant.
It's a
Yeah.
combination. I'm not missing out then. So
Yeah.
that would either be some whatever I'm into at that time, but it's going to be something that's nourishing. I don't look at social media. I don't look at the news. I'm not going to do anything that's going to funk up my energy. So
Mm.
no. So
Awesome.
get Jada ready for school. Jada goes for school. Then practically it is like my business that I'm doing. I'm working during those working hours. Before, I'm very blessed to have a home treadmill. So on other days as well, when it gets more later into the afternoon, I get on the treadmill, release as my physical movement, and it gets me going. Then Jada comes home from school. It's mummy and daughter time, and then after bed, so also I'm very mindful. My daughter, for those who aren't aware, she is currently nonverbal. However, we have a really great way of communicating with each other, and it's really important that I still nourish her mind. So even before she goes to bed, when we're in her bedroom, we're doing affirmations. We're
Oh,
going through affirmations, and she's there, and I get her to be able to communicate, to repeat. She does her amen and amens, and then we go to sleep.
beautiful.
Then for me, it's chill time. So before I go to bed, I do 10 things that I'm grateful for. I'm so happy and grateful now that you probably are aware of that phrase, Lee, because it's a very similar program we went on. Um, so I say that. And then also I do 10 wins for the day, whatever wins that might
Yeah.
be.
Love that.
Um, Small, big wins. It's really important that we can affirm ourselves because,
Yes.
as you alluded to before, we can self sabotage. We can
Mm.
have that inner critic that comes in, especially when we get into that upper level. Like, who do you think you are? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
calm, like, calm out, stay in your lane, Teresha.
Yeah.
It's like, all of those
Yeah.
kind of things.
So,
Um, so I do that before I go to bed, and prayer as well. I read scripture before I go to bed. So I really make sure that I wake up nourishing my mind throughout the day. I've also got little reminders that come up on my phone with affirmations. I'm constantly leaning into asking myself, am I aware as well? Like during the day, am I aware? Because that makes me think, what am I thinking about in that moment?
yeah.
Am I aware? Oh, Okay, was that a healthy thought? Was that a not so healthy thought? So that's pretty much my DMO. You know, that's the baseline of it. Of course, life happens, there's other things to do,
Yeah.
appointments, meetings, all that kind of stuff. But if I can be consistent, it helps to regulate my nervous system,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
know we've been through so much as experiences, but if there's something that I can lean into that the body is familiar with and
Mm,
it's normal and natural for it, my system, my nervous system feels more regulated in that. So despite going through some significant pain that I have experienced over the years,
yeah.
if I can still keep up with those practices, I can still tap. It allows the body to feel safe.
That's
And I
brilliant.
think safety is key when it
Yeah.
comes to living life.
That is brilliant. And you know what that's allowed me to see? It's just seeing, like, because I all like when I see your posts and all the success you're experiencing, I'm like, how is she containing all of this? But it's because you have a regulated system,
Yes.
and the nervous system is the key to any of our success, because if it isn't regulated and it doesn't feel safe, it
Mm,
will eject whatever type of.
exactly.
So you have built such a solid container with your rituals that
Yes.
you can have this avalanche of achievements and success coming.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
acknowledging that and witnessing that, Lee, because
Mhm.
it really regulated system is the baseline. You know,
Right.
for everything that we do, if we don't feel safe, we're not going to be able to perform. We're not going to be able to do the things that we do
That's
in
right.
life. And
That
then
is.
we end up making decisions that are maybe irrational. We don't use our discernment, all of these kind of things. So I have my base, and it's really important that I stay grounded
Mm.
in those moments. And when the weather is, you know, doing it's a good thing, get out in nature too. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
nature, do a gratitude walk at the same time. You know,
Awesome.
it's there's so many things that you can combine. So
Mm.
you also sharing what you do, I think it's really important for people to listen to our conversation and know, you know, pick maybe something that might resonate with you, set up your own DMO.
Mm.
One thing you also shared was what I feel was like the power of support. You've reached out, you've lent into the notion of what healthy females look like, men, support network, you've had therapy. Now, because this series is about, you know, looking into the success, the legacy, the impacts that, you know, Black men and men of Black heritage are having, what would you say we as a society can do in order to support Black men and men of Black heritage
Yeah.
better?
Oh, ooh, that's a very, very good question. I'll be blunt with that. I think it starts with us. Society and its infrastructure wasn't built for our edification or elevation. And even though we have had some incredible changes in the system, um, we're still a long way off from being able to have our kind of what's the word I'm looking for? To have our full expression in society.
Mm.
And so for me, I think it's a very grassroots play. And for men, so when I was in the church, one of the things I saw was just kind of the lack of focus and support for men. And I just felt like I needed to do something. And it was a predominantly Black church. So all I did was I thought I'd invite a few men over to my house for breakfast on a Saturday morning. And, you know, I think I thought maybe five will turn up and about 30 turn up in the house. And this notion of men don't talk
Mm.
is absolute nonsense. When men get together
Yes.
and they feel it's relatively a safe space,
Hmm.
we chat as much as a woman would. We go up, like you have to like literally get them out the door
Yeah.
talking. And for me, those have been some of the most transformational periods of my life.
Mm.
Because what happens is when us Black men get together and we share our journeys, our history, our shared culture, no matter what they're going through, there's something about their life and what they share that speaks to my own problem, my own pain, my own questions, even if it's not a direct. And I've just found that happen each and every time. And you just feel this surge of energy. And look, this happens in community. Like we're all, every human is biologically wired for co-regulation, right? But there's something powerful when Black men come together and share their lives. That in and of itself is such a massive it's such a massive driver towards change, because out of that came a boxing club, out of that came a school program, out of that came a training camp, all these different things just from men coming together. So we don't need this kind of sophisticated system and organized initiative. We just need to come together more and have these honest conversations. And there was I remember reading Oprah's book, It Didn't Start With You, which was all about childhood trauma. She co-authored it with a doctor, and he said that regular discussions in a small, like-minded community group is exponentially more powerful than one-to-one therapy with a qualified therapist. And so, and I can bear witness to that. I've had some amazing therapy over the years.
Yeah.
But nothing compares to coming together and just sharing your life with people that are of the same,
Sure.
Same kind of vibration, frequency, outlook. And so for me, let's just start there. Let's just start coming together. And then out of that, you would just see this cascade of events, synchronicities, ideas, innovations, just come together to elevate us in a way that we could never have anticipated.
And I love that you had that observation, because it starts with an observation, isn't it?
Yeah.
In order for the group to come together, and the spin-offs from that, it takes for that one person to come forward. And I absolutely love that it actually starts within our own network, within our own community. So it's almost like seeing when there is an opportunity for people listening to this podcast, is to see if there is an opportunity to even be the advocate for that in some way, shape, or form, to speak up. Because again, the power behind that connection, we are wired to connect as human beings. We are. And that sense of belonging can feel so incredibly powerful and connecting when you are with those people, as you said, who are on a very similar vibration to you, and vibes there. Have you seen then that the conversation has evolved in any way, shape, or form when it comes to mental health and well-being for Black men and men of Black?
Definitely, definitely. I think, the fact that we can openly talk about therapy and mental health now compared to 10 years ago, there's been absolute leaps and bounds. You are seeing more organizations being set up to deal with this. One of our advisors, she runs a mental health service and platform for Black founders. And so we're seeing a lot more ventures, organizations, projects that are really providing that support. So the conversation is shifting. More time I could be out and have that conversation around mental health and emotional well-being. 9 out of 10 times that brother's going to engage. Do you know what I mean? He's going to engage.
Yes.
And so there's definitely been a shift, because I think we've realized that we are more than just this body, and more than this persona that we need to show up in society for. And I think we're definitely at an inflection point in which we realize we need to integrate our emotions into our daily living, that we need to be honest. We need to be able to start shedding some of that persona. I remember when I did, I sent out text to 20 of my Black male friends, actually. And I said, what's the biggest thing you're struggling with? And they all came back with different aspects of life. So one was, I'm really struggling to just keep everything together with my home and my work. finances, so on. But there was a common theme, and it was, I'm struggling to keep showing up in this persona. I'm tired of being this character for everyone around me,
Mm.
in the workplace, in the home.
Yes.
And this is why I think the talks that I organized was so powerful, because it was a place where the mask can come off and I can actually be me. And so for us, I think it is having those spaces where we can drop the persona for a little bit and get
Mm.
in touch with who we really are, and be
Yes.
okay sharing on a really deep, vulnerable level. So there is definitely a shift. We've got miles to go, but I'm happy it's happening in my lifetime. Even if I don't get to see the full picture, the fact that I'm being witness to that inflection
Mm.
point is really fantastic.
Yeah. And when it comes to being our authentic self, I'm just going to bounce back to the
Yeah.
emotional side of it as well. And, for some people who think about, okay, how do I even start to label my emotions? And there's some great tools online. There's an emotion wheel for people
Mm.
who may just want to start actually going through your day and just labeling, because we have a tendency to use three emotions: happy, sad, angry.
Yeah.
But there's layers of emotions. So you might say, why am I always angry? Actually, you might not always be angry. You
Mm.
might be frustrated. If
Yeah.
we start to label the emotions and become more aware of what these
Yes.
emotions are throughout the day, then we are probably able to express them in a
Yeah.
more healthier way, and
Awesome.
then understanding the patterns behind
Yeah.
what's actually activating those emotions. It could be
I
a common theme.
love that. Absolutely love that. And you know, it's funny because when I first came across this work about labeling, it just felt so cheesy and woo.
Yes.
It was just like, ugh. However, when I started putting it into practice, the awareness of that emotion increased significantly. And I now had some agency around
Mm,
navigating that
yeah.
emotion. I was like, oh, okay. I'm now, rather than kind of identifying with it, I could just observe it and I can manage it better.
Absolutely. I love that, the difference between labeling and just observing it and just like
Yeah.
identifying with it. Yeah, there's a completely different energy around it. It's empowering. I find it so empowering because actually, when you start to observe your emotions, you can see there were times when you weren't angry. I'm not having another angry day. Actually, I was feeling happy at that point, or I was feeling elated, or ecstatic, whatever that might be.
100%. And I love that because, I'm thinking about my crash out earlier.
Mm.
Um, and now that I've shared it to the world, I'm going to go away and put a label on like what happened, so that if that happens in the future, yeah, I might just need to feel that stuff, but I don't need to identify the way I did. And the refractionary period to come back to yourself can
Mm.
be reduced if you've got that agency. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And the more you do it, it becomes like
And
second
if
nature.
you're having a bad day, like you're just going to have a bad moment or a bad couple of hours rather than a bad day.
Exactly. And that's it, the moment, the hour, not the entire day. You don't have to say it was the overall day, because you can actually look at the moment. It allows us to be very present. Now, I know that you're doing some great work out there and you've spoken about some of the offerings from Renova. I'd love for you to share with us a
Hmm.
bit more about that platform. What is that looking like?
Yeah, yeah,
What's
yeah. So the problem we're seeing in today's society is the fact that so many of us are just misaligned. And when I say misaligned, it's when your emotional state, your values, and your daily actions are out of sync.
mm,
So many of us are just fragmented from who we truly are to who we are today.
yeah.
Renova is there to bring that together. So it's a platform that combines human coaching. So you have access to a range of different coaches. You have AI coaching, which is your 24/7 coach on demand,
Mm,
anytime you can't access a human coach. And you have a weekly community, and that is your kind of facilitator led sessions
mm.
where you're doing life together and doing this journey. And providing those three pillars help bring those emotional states, your values, your daily actions together so
Wow.
you are more aligned as a person. And once
Oh,
you're more aligned as a person, life gets easier.
yes.
and it gets easier in the sense that you can cope better when the challenges come. So Renova we've been in stealth mode for about a year now. We've got our first couple of communities on there. We're building some incredible features such as mood tracking. So based on your history, it can anticipate your DMO and what's missing. So once it knows the activities that you engage with that keep you in a good emotional state, if you're missing them, it can suggest, oh, Lee, you didn't do your meditation over the last few days.
Hey,
Maybe you need to come back.
yes, accountable.
Yeah,
Accountability.
yeah, accountability. Um, so it's really for people that want to close the gap of who they truly believe they are and where they're at. And that could be on a personal level, in a professional setting. And I'm really excited by what I'm doing, because it's my first venture in the 25 years of entrepreneurship in which I'm a real user. Like, I've been so misaligned throughout my whole life. Going through the experiences I have over the last few years, um, being in community, um, reading my own content, reading content, engaging with AI. It's almost been like I've been living the product and I've just
Yeah.
brought it together, you know. So it's a very exciting stage we're at, where we are now going live publicly in April.
Okay.
And it's really, if you feel the call, please, I'm sure we can share details after.
We will do.
We're absolutely excited to bring, founding members on board.
Oh, brilliant. I'm going to put the details for Renova in the show notes. And I love the fact that you have all of those elements that are coming together to make life feel easier. Because that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
There are ultimately going to be challenges and obstacles. We know that it's life is life in that. If we have a tool out there that can actually help life to feel easier and to be a go-to, it's amazing. What a way to support alignment, as you said, and mental health and well-being. It sounds absolutely so powerful.
One of the things we found was there's so many great offerings out there, but they're
Yeah.
so fragmented. So if you think about, I don't know, the Calm app, it's geared towards meditation.
Mm,
About BetterHelp, it's geared solely for therapy.
yes.
There's loads of these kind of community things, but none of them bring them all together in
Mm,
one space, which when I've looked at the biggest trajectories in my life, it's been when I've been in community, I'm
yeah.
getting coaching, and
Yes.
I'm doing my own. Those are where the big kind of upward swings happen. And so for me, I just wanted to combine those three elements, that people have the best chance of being the best version of themselves.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. As you said, this is such a bespoke, unique offering that is
Mm.
out there for people. So when this podcast goes live, it would already be in play. You said April public launch. So
Yeah.
by the time it goes live, you'll be able to access it before I listening to this, which would be absolutely amazing. And I love the fact that you mentioned values actually, because it did make me think, what are some of the core values that guide your life and your business
Yeah,
and work?
sure. So the core values that guide my life is transparency, um, and not just with others, with myself. Like,
Mm,
honest, where are you really at, bro? You know, um, fun and adventure. I put them into to one.
mm,
Uh, Consistency
yeah.
is one, because I found that I used to very much go on what feels good, and
Mm,
that is not always the
yes.
best course of action. So
Yes.
consistency has become a really cool thing for me. And vision, having a vision. I think we all need some form of hope. We all need some form of aspiration. That
Mhm.
is the juice of life.
Yes.
And as much as presence is one of the most powerful forms to live by,
Mm.
it's got to have a nice, healthy balance of what is the vision for your life? Like,
Yes.
makes your heart leap
Mm.
in terms of what the next episode can be. So I try to have those.
Yes.
I even used to score them on a weekly basis, like how well I'm doing.
You were all in. You're project managing your vision.
Yeah, project managing
Ragging.
my values. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But some of those practices we've actually put into Renova. So the
Excellent.
tracking,
Yes.
it was our CTO when I showed him my spreadsheet. He was like, actually, that's really good. Very ADHD, but that's
We can make it work.
that's actually really, really good. So yeah, so in terms of value, and the thing with values is they can change, and they can change pretty often depending on your season. But I do think, very much like the DMOs, you need the values guiding you, helping you circumnavigate
Mm.
life, because you will get blown back and forth with life if you haven't got a set of grounded values. And it
Mm.
can take work. Like, it took me 2-3 years to really arrive at those.
Yes.
But it's work absolutely worth doing.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you haven't got an extensive list of the 10, 20 core values, because that's when it can become messy.
And
It
that's
is like, yeah, the chaos that go around. Which value am I living today?
right.
It's like,
Really add into the chaos of
yeah, just streamline it. I love that. And when it comes to how so important, because I have two vision boards actually. I have a vision board with things that I say have been already manifested. So I
awesome.
believe everything out there is already manifested. So it's just there. And then when it has come into observation, I put it onto my next vision board. So I don't actually
It's really
take off
good
the picture. So I've got them side by side, manifested, observed.
because you're reinforcing that these visions are happening.
Yes,
Brilliant.
exactly.
That's
You
so
know,
good.
because sometimes I have a spreadsheet too of my gestation periods. How long did it take? I'm monitor these things too, but then I can witness the observation. It's actually come into the human observation. So I absolutely love everything that you shared there. So I'm curious then, what legacy, if any, would you like to leave?
None.
You've been on such a journey. None.
Yeah, none. I'm not. I personally am not interested in legacy.
Mm,
It's something I always struggled with,
yeah.
um, because it wasn't important to me. And
Mm.
I think that is just me being in my truth. I feel we come here, we contribute, we die, we're mourned for a bit, and then we're
A bit.
It's true though. Our kids are going to mourn us for a bit, and
Yeah.
then life goes on, and that is the cycle of life. I just think sometimes legacy can be a little bit too close to ego. I'm not
Mm.
saying that's for everyone, and there's plenty of good people leaving good legacy.
Mm.
But there's something about my own personal path, um, that legacy isn't in the mix. I want to touch as many lives as I can while I'm here, and whatever that manifests, good. Like, I'm in the next life. I'm doing the next.
Yeah.
Not worried about what I do,
Mm.
because how do I know that my input during this lifetime is sufficient for whatever happens in the next phase of life, for the next.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Yeah.
Maybe it takes a new generation to elevate them in some way to support that new existence of life. Mine might be too old. So I don't get too caught up
Mm.
in legacy these days. It's, what can I do now? Let me be present with helping others be the best version. And when I'm done here and I've gone home, just let be what be. And maybe that's legacy.
I was just about to say that. I was about to repeat back to you what you just said there, because I thought if I was to describe you, what do you know about Lee? What you said there would have been your legacy.
Okay. Okay. So maybe I do like legacy.
Maybe it's just the wording that we just got caught up on there. Maybe
Yeah,
it's not the word legacy.
think,
The
I think
impact.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, I think with legacy, it's that whole I want to make my mark when I'm done, and this is
Yes.
what I want. You know, a statue and a school name
Yeah.
after.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, yeah. That's the kind of legacy connotation I have. But impact, yeah, we're all here for impact. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's looking after our child and being the best they can be, or feeding millions of kids, or changing people's lives. Like we're all here for impact, whether
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do it or not. So, in terms of what that specifically looks like, again, I'm just open. I'm open to if someone told me this is what I would be doing as a business, having these types of conversations, talking about emotions and masculine. If you said like in 2019, Lee, this is the journey, I would have just laughed, Teresha. I would have laughed. And
Yeah.
it comes back to the surrender
Yeah.
of life. Be in surrender to life because you just don't know the deeper wants you have.
Yeah.
Take life taking you on a completely different direction to
Mm.
bring you into who you're truly supposed to
Yeah.
be.
And you know what? That's been such a beautiful share. And I've seen that as a core of our discussion today, is that many of us are living in that acquisition phase, what you described. And 2019 version of Lee might have been like acquisition and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, wrong.
And then you think about the surrendering, and I absolutely love that this has been one of the core points of our discussion today, is that being in the ebb and flow, of life. And it's okay to have both acquisition, it's okay to be in flow, the feminine, the masculine energy, whatever that may look like. And it's just so lovely to hear. And how I would describe your legacy impact is that you are really enabling people to be the best version of themselves. You're equipping them with the tools, the techniques, the offerings to help them to be the best version of themselves and to be in alignment.
Thank
So
thank you for changing my view on legacy.
it's just words, it's just playing words. So we're going to bring this conversation to a wonderful close, Lee. It's been so nourishing having this chat with you, and I just know when we're in flow, we're in flow. So there's two questions that I do like to ask, my two parting questions I like to ask my guests on this series. So the first one is, and you share so much, what key takeaway would you like to leave listeners with from this conversation?
There's two, if I can.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, make being your authentic self your priority. And I know that sounds really high level, but there's in each and every one of us, we know there's a part that is slightly out of alignment.
Mm.
And I think it's being able to take stock, whether through the help of a friend, through therapy, um, through journaling, whatever your modality is, take time to find out how authentic are you living. Are your values, you know, are your values being lived out? Are you living by your values? If you don't have values, explore that, but take time. You know, as a man, as a black man, authenticity is something that is um, it's so obscure
Mm.
because you need to show up, be successful, be a provider, don't moan, don't
Yes.
express feelings, and caked on top of that persona, caked on underneath that persona is our authentic self. And this is why we have midlife crisis,
Yes.
because our soul is just tired of living this disconnect.
Mm.
So it's really important that we take time, and whatever that looks like, life will always provide the first step. So if this resonates in some way, life has already given you that first step towards your step towards authenticity. And very closely to that, expect the price of admission for your goals. So, yes, get excited about your vision, the goals you have, but know that life is going to give you an initiation into that. And it has to, because you cannot be the person you are now to contain the level of success that you want. So the initiation is the shedding, and it's painful. It comes at unprecedented and unexpected rate, and you need to be aware it's going to come and have the tools, the people around you to support you. So find your authenticity, expect the price of admission.
Two powerful points there to take away and considerations. I love that. Very, very empowering though. You're just getting people prepared. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
There you go.
There you go. So it's all about preparation where you can actually meet what is going to be that next step for you. The last question, Lee, I would love to ask you is, what is one question every man, and especially Black men and men of Black heritage, ought to consider asking himself regularly?
Am I okay with the way I'm showing up daily? Very simple, but it allows you to start exploring everything that we've talked about today. Authenticity, your emotions, your values. Because out of that, you will start to already experience your intuition in terms of what's working well and what's not. But because we're so go, 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 you don't take time for that very simple question that has so much gems in it.
It does. It does. Being very intentional, isn't it? It's about being very intentional with that question and giving yourself space to answer it fully. Not a rush thing. You sit down with that question and you actually lean into whatever is showing up with no judgment. It's important that we do this exercise. No judgment. Be as compassionate as you can with yourself, just as you would to a loved one who might be trying to beat themselves up. All right, just know whatever shows up for you. And you'll have those days when you're like, yes, because you're asking them today. You'll have those days when you're like, yes, I showed up as me. Now, how did I show up today? Yeah. Other days might not have worked so well for you. However, it's being okay with that.
Being okay with it. And look, many of us are not going to know how to sit with our emotions, to face ourselves. So this is where professional support is really needed. So maybe it's a close friend, maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a coach like Teresha. Start with that question. And like I said, it's been a journey of 40 odd years to get to a space where I now know how to answer that question.
Yes.
No one teaches us.
No.
We come into this world. Our parents don't teach us how to process emotions. We then grow up into adolescence with societal and peer pressures. We then go into society as an adult, having to don this persona. And in all that time, we have just buried our essence. And so it's so important that we start to unpack that. And if it's that we need help doing that, please get the help, because it will be the most significant thing as a man you can do, is coming into your authenticity. There's a reason why people like Trump get on in the world, because they're unapologetically themselves.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think of his moral compass, people that get on in the world are unapologetically themselves.
Yes.
And you got to find what that unapologetic self is for yourself.
Love that. Absolutely love that, because then we start to trust ourselves.
Yes. Make power decisions when you're in that space.
Exactly. In all areas of your life. Lee, what a wonderful, great, awesome, empowering, awesome conversation we have had today. Thank you so much. If anybody wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Good question. You can reach me on LinkedIn. Just type in Lee Hazzard, LeeHazzard. You can get me on Instagram. I don't post much. I'm a bit of a lurker, like occasional lurker, because I don't go on there much. But it's Duke, Dukej, Hazzard again. That's my @ or reach me on the Renova, which I'm sure you'll provide the details.
Yes.
I'm more than happy to connect with you, and I do hope today has served you in some way.
Oh, I absolutely know it has. I absolutely know. And it will land with those connecting with this wonderful message today. I'm going to drop all of Lee's details in the show notes, so they'll be there and accessible. And again, Lee, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Teresha.
Awesome. And for everybody who has listened to this really nourishing, elevating conversation between myself and Lee, I want to thank you for your time, for your attention, and for your energy. And until the next episode, take great care of yourselves and others too.